close. It is precise. It was simply an adaptation. And then, of course, Mark Smith, and I have both editions of his book, The Early History of God, and The Early History of God, the second edition. In his first edition, I have that, he says on page XXVII, that's 27, in the preface, the introduction, he says, the present work examines the Canaanite and Israelite data in some details and inquires into the fundamental relationship between Canaanite and Israelite religion. Early Israel initially witnessed a spectrum of religious worship that included the cults of various Canaanite deities. That's Mark S. Smith in his first edition. In his second edition, I have something else Mark Smith said. There's so much. The scholar S. Olyon, this is on page 108 and 109, Yahweh and Asherah, chapter 3. I seriously recommend to you, Messianic Jew, that you read this chapter. Read the whole book, but you've got to read this chapter. This chapter will knock you on your keister. The Asherah was acceptable in both the northern and southern kingdoms, both outside and inside the royal cult of Samaria and Jerusalem. Besides Samaria and Jerusalem, devotion to the Asherah is attested for Ophrah and Bethel. From this information, it would appear that the symbol of the Asherah was a general feature of Israelite religion, and he uses 1 Kings 14:23, 2 Kings 17:10 and 16. He uses Jeremiah 17:2. He uses 1 Kings 16:33. He uses 2 Kings 13:6. He uses 2 Kings 21:7 and 2 Kings 23:6. He uses 2 Chronicles 24:18. He uses Judges 6:25, and he uses 2 Kings 23:15. There is an enormous amount of information about this in Mark Smith. Seriously, you've got to upgrade yourself. And finally, Dale N. Robertson, The Biblical Ciphers Unsealed, a revival of the Hebrew goddess. He notes one of the most shocking aspects, and other scholars have confirmed this. I'll have to make another video of it if you think I'm bluffing you. But if you can get this book, this is a... my neighbor's dog is howling. The fire engine went by. This is a 2001 text. Let's see. Oh, Moses introduced, this is on page 202. Moses introduced the bronze serpent at the founding of Yahwism, and the Asherah and cult prostitutes had a place in the Jerusalem temple. This demonstrates that these practices were not only constantly part of the cult of Yahweh, but that they had been so from the beginning. It's more of what everyone else is saying too. Yahweh was once either the consort of a goddess in her fertility cult, or even that the name Yahweh was originally applied to the goddess. Now that's fascinating. The Almighty Yahweh, the God of Moses, and the latest Hebrews, was the goddess. Wow. Fascinating. Yahweh, like all male gods, was first the bisexual goddess herself, then her son, then the lover of the goddess, a shepherd king. Ashtaroth was also worshipped, who was generally thought to be identical with Asherah. In Hebrew tradition, those two were related. He says this on page 203. And then on page, on page 204 and 205, exploring the name of Yahweh, when God first appeared to Moses, and he said, I am Yahweh, I appeared unto Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not under my name Yahweh, but as El Shaddai, and he shows how El Shaddai was a female goddess. It translates God with breasts. And Frank Moore Cross also shares that translation. They worship the female goddess, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and even before then. We are talking way back into early biblical history here, just so you're aware of that. Anyway, there's much, much, much more I could share with you. if you're still skeptical. I promise I can produce dozens of videos on this. I've only just simply taken the snippet off of each page, out of these texts, out of these articles. I'm trying to show you the variety as well as the breadth and depth of the scholarship, both from the Christian and the Jewish side of things. And I'm here to tell you, it is positively fascinating to me. I understand your ideology, but the question is, what is the biblical reality based upon archaeology? The archaeology has proven beyond a reasonable doubt that God was married and he sired children. Now, that may not fit your concept, but I'm perfectly comfortable with that. So that's fascinating. Are we after biblical reality, or are we going to try to force the Bible to say something that a later theological belief is being put back onto the Bible, when originally it was this way? Do your homework. I'm finding it utterly fascinating. So that's just a little bit more to show you. Thanks for watching the Backyard Professor videos. I'll be back with a whole lot more, I promise.